Anthony. This is Blessed Christian Lifestyle. Thank you very much for being on. Really appreciate it. Yesterday we went over Genesis chapter 38 to chapter 40. All right, today we're going to finish reading chapter 40, and I'm going to see if I can finish reading the end of Book of Genesis. All right, it's been a while. Book of Genesis is one of the longest books. All right, it's one of those. A lot of people, they start off reading the Bible, they read Genesis, but they really don't finish it. A lot of people don't finish it. But hey, just one chapter at a time, maybe two or three, four, five, every now and then, and eventually you'll get through it. All right. Remember, hey, we're just reading God's word. We're just learning. All right. So what I like to do on this channel is I like to read some Old Testament, and then I'll read some New Testament. Also, if there's a question, feel free to ask a question. We'll make sure we get you an answer for any question that you have. All right. So thank you very much for being on here, and that's what we do on this channel. All right, so I'm gonna start reading Genesis chapter 40. It came to pass after these things that the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their lord, the king of Egypt, and Pharaoh was angry with his two officers and chief butler and the chief baker. So he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard and a prison place where Joseph was confined. So Joseph's a prisoner at this time. Remember, his Potter's wife tried to seduce him, and he ran away. And then she blamed him, like, "Hey, he was trying to seduce me." So Joseph got put into prison, even though it was a lie. All right. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, so they were in custody for a while. Then the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, had a dream, both of them, each man's dream in one night, and each man's dream with its own interpretation. And Joseph came in to them in the morning and looked at them and saw that they were sad. So he asked Pharaoh's officer who were with him in custody of his lord's house, saying, "Why do you look so sad?" And they said to him, "We each have a dream, and there is no interpreter of it." So Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell them to me, please." So Joseph interprets dreams. Right? It's very important. Hey, if you ever had a dream, especially a godly dream, it's very important to interpret it. He says here, um, he says, so Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God?" So you gotta let God interpret the dreams. You gotta pray about it. Pray about your dreams. All right, let God interpret it for you. Here we go. Then the chief butler told his dream to Joseph and said to him, "Behold, in my dreams a vine was before me, and the vine were three branches. It was as though it budded. Its blossoms shot forth, and its clusters brought forth ripe grapes. Then Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into the Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand." And Joseph said to him, "This is the interpretation of it. The three branches are 3 days." All right, so you got 3 days. Now within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your place, and you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hands according to the former manner when you were his butler. But remember me when it is well with you, and please show kindness to me. Make mention of me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this house. So Joseph says, "All right, so from the interpretation of your dream, you're actually going to make it out. Now, please don't forget about me when you get out. For indeed, I was stolen away from the land of the Hebrews, and also I have done nothing here that they should put me into the dungeons." All right, so that's a foreshadow. All right, foreshadow of Jesus. It says here, the land of the Hebrews, and also I have done nothing here that they should put me into the dungeons. All right, he's being punished for, and he's innocent. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said to Joseph, "I also was in my dream, and there were three white baskets in my head. In the uppermost basket were all kinds of baked goods, for Pharaoh and the birds ate them out of the basket on my head." So Joseph answered and said, "This is the interpretation of it. The three baskets are 3 days." All right, so three baskets, 3 days. "Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head from you and hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat your flesh from you." Now it came to pass on the third day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast for all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of chief baker among his servants. All right, so I'm gonna read this one more time. In the uppermost basket were baked goods for Pharaoh, and the birds ate them out of the basket on my head. All right. Joseph interprets the dream. Answer and said, this interpretation of his 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head from you and hang it on the tree, and the birds will eat your flesh from you. All right, here we go. 21. Genesis chapter 40, verse 21. Then he restored the chief butler to his butlership again, and he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But he managed the chief baker as Joseph had interpreted to them. So the dream came to pass, and Joseph interpreted. Remember, yet the chief butler did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. All right, so he's like, "Hey, remember me when you get out of prison," and he forgets. All right, how's it going? Thank you very much for being on. If you have any questions, feel free. Anything. Here, I'm just gonna read the word for a little bit, and I'll answer some questions if there is any. All right, and then I'm gonna read the New Testament for a little bit. So feel free to either stay on or ask a question. All right, thank you very much. Then it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh had a dream, and behold, he stood by the river. Suddenly there came up out of the river 7 cows, fine looking and fat. So now Pharaoh's having a dream, right? Not knowing that, hey, Joseph knows how to interpret dreams. Then behold, 7 other cows came up, and after them out of the river, ugly and gaunt, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the river. And the ugly and gaunt cow ate up the 7 fine-looking and fat cows. So Pharaoh awoke. So we got cows. He slept and dreamed a second time, and suddenly 7 heads of the grain came up, one stalk plump and good. And behold, 7 thin heads blighted by the east wind sprang up afterwards. All right, so this dream's gonna get interpreted. All right, how you doing? Just a bro. How you doing? Thank you for being on. All right, do you have any questions or anything? We're on Genesis chapter 41, verse 7. All right, Pharaoh just had a dream. So remember, Egypt, we're dealing with Egypt here, right? We're dealing with Egypt. Joseph came from Israel, and he got sold into Egypt. And the 7 thin heads devoured the 7 plump and full heads. So Pharaoh woke, and in a deed it was a dream. Now it came to pass in the morning that the spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians in Egypt and all the wise men. So this is actually this is very similar to the book of Daniel. All right, so this is very repetitive. The king has a dream, and he goes gets the wise men, for all the magicians and the wise men, right, that are in the kingdom. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was no one who could interpret them for Pharaoh. Then the chief butler spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I remember my faults this day, when Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me in custody in the house of the captain of the guard. Both me and a chief baker, we each had a dream, and in one night he and I, each of us dream according to the interpretation of his own dream. So like, hey, I think I know somebody who can interpret the dream. Nacimiento. How you doing? Thank you very much for being on. Hey, gracias. Thank you for being on. Who's that? Maria Jose Ferreira de Nacimiento. All right, gracias. Now there was a young and Hebrew man with us, young Hebrew man that was with us there, a servant. So he's talking about Joseph. They're like, hey, I know somebody who can interpret dreams. All right, so Joseph's gonna interpret Pharaoh's dream. Hi, how's your day? How's my day? My day is kind of busy. All right, worked about 8 hours today, and then cut the lawn, and here I am taking a break. I'm gonna read some of God's word, and then maybe get a nap. How's your day going? Thank you very much for being on. I really appreciate it. Where y'all from? I'm in Houston, Texas. All right. Anybody ever been to Texas or Houston in that matter? Good, good. Thank you very much for being on. All right. How's it going? Washington State or Washington D.C. I've been to Washington D.C. Yeah, I've never been to Washington State. Washington State. Isn't that where state? Oh, okay, Washington State. I'm not sure what Washington State's known for. I know they're known for college football. Washington State. Yeah. That's cool. Thanks for being on. How's everybody doing? Just got to McDonald's. Free Wi-Fi. Just got to McDonald's. All right, how's it going? Thank you for being on. All right, anybody got a question? All right, great. All right, thank you very much. All right, really appreciate you being on here. Please don't forget to subscribe and hey, be notified. I like to do a lot of lives. All right, so hey, catch me on lives or whatever. All right, I'm gonna keep reading here. Thank you very much for being on. All right. The captain of the guard, and we told him, and he interpret. So we're gonna interpret a dream here. All right. You ever had a dream that needed interpretation? All right. So Joseph here, he's able to interpret dreams. What do you listen to in music? I listen to a lot of Christian music. I actually listen to. I'll listen to hip hop. I go through like hip hop Christian music, which is kind of a thing now. Um, Pretty much, man, worship music. Outside of worship music, I would say, I guess a little bit of pop, I guess. But yeah, I try not to listen to negative stuff. That's pretty much what I try to stay away from. Anything that's negative, club music, just stuff like that. I try to stay away from it because I can't really relate to it. So, all right, here we go. So we're gonna interpret his dream here, and he interpreted our dreams for us. Each man he interpreted according. So he's telling them about a person he knows that can interpret a dream. All right. And it came to pass, just as he interpreted for us, so it happened. He restored me to my office, and he hanged him. All right. Please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much for being on. All right. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him quickly out of the dungeons. And he shaved, changed his clothing, and came to Pharaoh. So like, hey, they went to go grab Joseph. Go grab Joseph, the one that can interpret dreams, and bring him to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. But I have heard it said of you that you can understand a dream to interpret it. So Joseph answered, and Pharaoh saying, it is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace. All right, thank you for being on. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, behold, in my dream I stood on the bank of the river. Suddenly 7 cows came up out of the river, fine looking and fat, and they fed in the meadows. So he's telling them the dream here. Then behold, 7 other cows came up after them, poor and very ugly and gaunt, such ugliness as I have never seen in all the land of Egypt. So we're keeping account of how many coming up here. How's it going? So bro, how's it going? Where are you from? Thank you for being on. Uh, and the gaunt and ugly cows ate up the first 7 and fat cows. When they had eaten them up, no one would have known that they had eaten them, for they were just as ugly as the beginning. So I awoke. So that's the dream. All right. How's it going, Donald Hill? How's it going? Thank you for being on. All right. Thank you for being on. I'm not sure. I don't think I've seen many on here before. Please subscribe. Hey, I do a lot of lives. All right. So hey, feel free to check them out. Also, I saw in my dreams, and suddenly 7 heads came up, one stalk full of good. Then behold, 7 heads withered, thin and blighted by east wind, sprang up after them, and the thin heads devoured 7 good heads. So I told this to the magician, but there was no one who could explain it to me. All right, so we're going to interpret this dream here. All right, nobody could interpret it. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads are 7 years. The dreams are one, and the 7 thin and ugly cows which came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty heads blighted by the east wind are 7 years of famine. So we got famine about to happen. All right, famine meaning lack of food, lack of supplies. All right. Do you like to eat what you have? How's it going? Thank you for being on. This is the thing which I have spoken to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. Indeed, 7 years of great plenty will come through all the land of Egypt. All right, so we got the number 7. 7 years, but after them, 7 years of famine. So 7 prosperous years, and then 7 famine years. All right, will rise, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine will deplete the land. All right, so 7 good years and 7 bad years. Now, therefore, let Pharaoh select the discerning and wise man and set them over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land. to collect the fifth of the produce of the land of Egypt in the 7 plentiful years. So they're gonna make sure they got plenty for the famine. So they know ahead of time, hey, the famine. All right, and let them gather all the food of those good years that are coming, and store up grain under authority of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. Then the food shall be reserved for the land for the 7 years and famine which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land may not perish during famine. All right, so it says here they're gonna keep food in Egypt, so they're planning for the 7 years of famine. All right, keep. All right, keep using the sword. Don't give up in the race. Oh yeah, preserve. We only have a little time left to wait. Thank you very much. Jesus is King. Amen. Thank you very much. Yeah, I just don't remember. Download. Yeah, I might have. Thank you for being on, by the way. Man, I had a toothache. Well, I had my tooth cracked about 4 days ago, and it's been giving me headaches, been giving me dizziness. I guess from little pain, and so I'm recovering from that. But I'm pushing through. All right, and it's actually giving me a little trouble reading. So, but I'm pushing through because I really want to get through Genesis and I want to get to the book of Exodus. All right, Mary, how's it going? Thank you very much for being on. All right, please feel free to subscribe. Thank you very much. All right, I do a lot of lives, so hey. All right, if you have any questions or hey, you just want to share your faith or anything, uh, hey, feel free. All right, thank you very much for being on. All right, here we go. We're reading about Joseph. All right, he just interpreted the dream: 7 years of prosperity and 7 years of famine. So it's telling you what do you do when you know you're about to have a tough year. All right, you save food. All right, you save food during your prosperous time for whenever you go down when you're not being so prosperous. All right, um, when you're doing your budget, same thing. Hey, save a little extra for whenever you go through hard times. All right, don't just spend everything all at once and not expect the hard times. All right, all right. All right. Good to have you on. Thank you very much for being on. All right. If you have any questions or anything, please feel free. All right. Then that food shall be as reserved for the land for 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land may not perish during famine. So, land of Egypt is not going to perish. Why? Because they're going to save food for during the famine. All right, so a lot of lands they're gonna be lacking food, but not Egypt in this case. They have Joseph who knows ahead of time. Hey, 7 years are prosperous, and it's very easy to feel like when your land is prosperous, it's easy to feel like oh, it's gonna be prosperous forever. But no, he knows ahead of time. Hey, 7 years prosperous, and then 7 years of downhill. It's gonna be famine. So hey, let's gather the food for 7 years to prepare for the famine. So the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find such one, this man in whom it is the Spirit of God? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, inasmuch as God has shown you all this, there is no one discerning and wise as you. So he gets favor from Pharaoh. He's like, hey, you're pretty smart. All right, you're pretty wise. All right. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring off. So he takes his ring off his hand and put it on Joseph's hand. So he takes his ring off and he puts it on his hand. All right, like here you go. Ancient Gaming, good day. Hey, thank you for being on. All right, thank you very much. All right. Here we go. Bless you. All right. Hopefully you're having a good day here. We got Cajun Gaming. All right. Thank you very much for being on. All right. Here we go. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, and as much as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. So one key thing about the Bible. Okay. One key thing about the word is God wants us to be wise. All right. How do you be wise? First off, that is very important here in the Bible. Is how to be wise. How do you be wise? Hey, having God in your life. That is how you are very wise. It says here, then Pharaoh said to Joseph, and as much as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all the people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard of the throne will be a greater than you. All right, so having God, hey, that's what makes you wise. Hey, have God in your life, all right? Have God in your life. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring off, so he gives him his ring, put in his hand, put it on Joseph's hand, and he clothed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. So he literally gives him a whole outfit, like, hey, time to look like a king, pretty much. So Joseph has a ring, he has a garment, and a necklace on his neck, gold chain around his neck. And he had him ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried out before him, bow the knee. So he set him over all the land of Egypt. So people were bowing down to Joseph now. Remember his dream in the very beginning. People were going to bow down to him. And now he just got promoted. And sure enough, people are going to bow down to him. All right. All right. I'm going to get some water real quick. How's it going? All right. Thank you for being on. I've been battling a toothache, so please bear with me. All right, here we go. 43. Let's go. 44. Pharaoh also said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without your consent, no man may lift his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zephaniah. So he changed his name. Hey, that's very common in the Bible. They try to change you. Hey, you follow God, don't get changed. All right, people will try to change you. Like, hey, no, do this. Pharaoh called Joseph's name uh, Zephaniah Peniah, and he gave him as a wife Azena, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. So Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. Now, in the 7 plentiful years of the ground brought forth abundantly. All right, so remember, they're bringing food abundantly. So he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt and laid up the food in the cities. He laid up in every city and the food of the field which surrounded them. Joseph gathered very much grain as the sand of the sea until he stopped counting, for it was immeasurable. And to Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came. Hosanna, the daughter of Potiphar, priest on bore to him. Joseph called the name of his firstborn Manasseh, for God has made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. All right. And the name of the second he called Ephraim, for God has caused me to be fruitful in the land of the affliction. Then the 7 years of plenty which were in the land of Egypt ended, and the 7 years of famine began to come, as Joseph had said. The famine was in all lands, but all lands of Egypt there was bread. So there was a famine, all right, in all the lands. In Egypt there was bread, so there was bread in Egypt. So when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried. So people are gonna be looking out for like, hey, Egypt has food still. Everybody else, they're not growing crops. There's a famine. All right, but Egypt has food. To Pharaoh for bread, then Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, go to Joseph, whatever he says to you, do. The famine was over all the face of the earth, and Joseph opened all the storehouse and sold to the Egyptians, and the famine became severe in the land of Egypt. So all the countries came to Joseph in Egypt to buy grain, because the famine was severe in all the lands. So everybody's coming to Egypt to survive the famine. All right, that is huge. So this is gonna bring Joseph's brothers back to him. Remember, his brothers are in the old country. All right, land of Israel, the land that was given to Abraham. All right, Abraham, Isaac. All right, so they're over there, and it's like, man, there's a famine. Like the only one that has food is Egypt, and they have food because they have Joseph, who is with God. All right, so let's keep that in mind. And then that's going to take us into chapter 42. I'm going to give it a second in case somebody has questions. Thank you very much for being on. All right, pushing through. I'm gonna end it at 30 minutes. All right. I'm gonna give it a few minutes. I'm gonna end it at 30 minutes, and then I'm gonna start over, and we're gonna read some New Testament. If anybody has any questions, I'm just pushing through. Thank you very much for being on. Mess with some of these settings. Let me see these settings. See how that looks. I'm gonna mess with some of these settings for a second. Not bad. I'm gonna see if I can get a better photo. All right. Let me actually just screenshot. Oh, sorry. All right, how's it going? All right, just messing with some of these settings for a second. I'm gonna have to get a. All right, pretty cool. All right, man, I'm about to get a big green screen. Get a screenshot. Maybe download. Pretty cool. All right. So if anybody has any questions, I'm just gonna get ready for. I'm gonna stop it at 30 minutes, and I'm gonna do New Testament. All right. Let me see. I'm gonna go over. We just finished Genesis chapter. What was it? Chapter. We went all the way through Genesis chapter 42. So we're at Genesis chapter 42. We're gonna read some New Testament next. All right. Anybody got any questions? Feel free. Actually, I'm gonna switch over here. I'm gonna go to New Testament. All right. How's it going? God spread Egypt from perishing because Joseph was part of the. Yep. And the bloodline could not be broken. That is part of the reason. Well, yeah. So we got Joseph is part of the bloodline of Jesus. All right. Let me see if I can find Yeah, I talked about genealogy the other day. Let me see. G. Let's go to Johnny, Matthew, Luke 3. Let me see here. Go to Luke 3. Let me see Luke. Oh, dang. All right. Let me see here. Joseph, the son of. So we have the son of Joseph, the son of Heli. Let me see here. Now Jesus himself began his ministry about 30 years of age. All right. Let me see here. All right. So we have Boaz, Eber, Noah. So we have Noah. We have Judah. Let me see here. What we? No. We got Noah, Shem, Canaan, son of Abraham, son of Isaac, son of Jacob, son of Judah, Perez, Solomon, the son of Boaz, son of. How's it going? During the time. Yeah. So that's how the book of Genesis ends. So we go to the end of book of Genesis. All right, let's see here. So the book of Genesis, we're establishing the bloodline of Jesus. We have Abraham. We're gonna start with Abraham, and then we go from Abraham to Isaac, and then from Isaac to Jacob, from Jacob to Joseph, and then we're gonna have a. Let me see. I believe we're gonna have a pause from there, and it's gonna go back all the way to the tribe of Judah, I believe. So who's from Joseph? From Joseph. Let me see. Let me pull up the. Yeah, let me pull up the genealogy. Jesus, I forgot which genealogy it was. I want to say it's from. Is it the one from Matthew? Where's the genealogy? I want to say it's Matthew that has the genealogy. Let's see here. But yeah, that's how the book of Genesis is going to end. It's going to end down bringing his whole family into Egypt, right? And that includes, I believe, Isaac. Let me see, no, I believe Jacob. So it's going to be Jacob and all his brothers, the Hebrews, they're going to come into Egypt, all right? And that's how the book of Genesis is going to end. And then the book of Exodus is going to start with, hey, they multiplied. The Hebrews multiplied, and they were, keeping them enslaved. They're like, hey, you know what? They go from royalty to being enslaved. Like, hey, you know what? Let's just put them to work. And now we're gonna have Moses, and Moses is gonna get them out of Egypt. And also remember, that's why we celebrate Passover. Well, not we, but the Hebrews and the Jews, they celebrate Passover when God passed over the firstborns of anybody who had the blood on their door. All right, remember of the lamb, sacrificed lamb on the door. God killed every firstborn in Egypt. If you didn't have the what do you call it, the blood on your door, all right, He passed over those places. All right, let me see here. I'm looking at Matthew 1. We have Jesus. So we have Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judas. Let me see here. No, that's not right. We got Jacob, Judas, and his brother, and Judas. We got Phares, Tamar, Phares. We got. Man, so that's gonna. Okay, so that's not gonna have Joseph in it. All right, so the way I just explained it. So remember, in the book of Genesis, was it Isaac meets Rachel? All right, and remember Isaac has babies with, was it Leah? All right, that's what we read in the book of Genesis. He works 7 years for his father-in-law to get Rachel, and then his father-in-law pretty much hustles him and says, "Wait, I can't give you my secondborn unless I got to give my firstborn first before I give you my secondborn." And he said, "You have to have Leah first." So he's like, "Fine." So he gets Leah and conceives babies with Leah. All right, and he works another 7 years to get Rachel. That's the one he wanted from the beginning. Finally, after 14 years, he gets Rachel. All right, and remember, I believe Rachel had trouble bearing children at first, but eventually bears Joseph. All right, which is the most important thing is Joseph, because he's going to end the book of Genesis. All right, so was it Jacob bore a son with Rachel. All right, and then they have Joseph. So we have Joseph. Also, Jacob's name changes to Israel. So it's like, oh, we don't see Jacob no more. Like, no, that's Israel. His name is Israel. All right, the name Jacob changes to Israel. All right, so that's what we covered in the book of Genesis. We're almost done with the book of Genesis. Thank you very much. God's the best, man. I'm just reading God's word. All right, so yeah, so we that's what we get. That's why it's very important, especially the book of Genesis. I know it's a long read, and I know like the genealogy. The genealogy is tough, but it's important to know the important names. All right, you got to know the important names. Abraham, you have Isaac. All right, we got Jacob, and then we got uh, eventually we have Joseph. All right, and I believe from there, I just know Exodus. We start talking about Moses, so I forget where Joseph goes. You are the best. Oh, thank you for being on. Hey, thank you for being subscribed. All right, thank you for being notified, and I'll see you next time, man. Thank you very much. So I forget who comes after Joseph. All right, I know Joseph has some children, but the important thing is the book of Exodus is Moses. All right, it's Moses, and also we build the tribe of Judah. All right, the tribe of Judah is what's important. Tribe of Judah. Remember, that's where Jesus is gonna come from. The tribe of Judah. All right, that's the tribe where Jesus' bloodline is gonna come from. The tribe of Judah. So that we're gonna have that. In the book of Exodus, man, it's gonna be. I can't wait to get into Exodus. Man, I think Exodus is another long read. How long is Exodus? Yeah, Exodus is another long read. So hey, be ready for that. And then we got Leviticus, which is also a long read. The first 5 books of the Bible are, man. So yeah, we're gonna go. So let me see what I can get out of Exodus. Let me see if I can get a sneak peek over here. So who comes in after Israel? Son, behold, God shall. So we got Israel, Jacob, Simeon, the Levite, and brethren, my soul. Joseph fell upon his father's faith. Joseph commanded were fulfilled for him, so that those which. Let me see. I went. All right. Donald Hill, how's it going? And Joseph took an oath to the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones. So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. So Joseph ends up dying in Egypt, all right, at 110 years old. So that's how the book of Genesis ends. Joseph, 110 years old. All right. I remember, and Joseph took an oath of the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones from hence. So I'm like, hey, carry my bones back. All right, if we ever go back, carry my bones. Don't forget. I will surely visit you and bring you out of the land, from the land which Jacob. So they were supposed to be there to survive the famine. All right. And hey, they ended up staying there a little longer than that. All right. And eventually Joseph dies. It says here, 110 years old. Now, these are the names of the children of Israel. So we're going to go into the children of Israel. For Joseph was in Egypt already, and Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all his generations. And the children of Israel were fruitful. So after Joseph, they just became fruitful. The 7 years that Jacob had to work for Rachel's father were sabbatical years. That would mean 49 years of work for his bride. No, I believe it was just 7 years. Yeah, I believe it was just 7 years. Yeah, I believe it was just 7 years, and then another 7, and then his father-in-law asked him for another 7 to take care of his flock, and then eventually he's like, after 21 years, he like, man, you know what? I'm just gonna have to run away. So yeah, he ends up trying to run away, and his father-in-law catches up to him, and they actually make an oath. They make a covenant, like, hey, they would not harm each other. All right. So I read that in Genesis. Let me see if I highlighted that. Let me see if I highlighted that over here. All right. Let me see here. So yeah, we read that in the book of Genesis. It was actually just the way it played out. Like he worked 7 years. He ended up working 21 years for his father-in-law, but his father-in-law knew what he was doing. He was taking advantage of him. So chapter 29 of Genesis, Jacob meets Rachel. All right, and Jacob said to him, "My brethren, we are," and he said to them, "All right, all right." So let me see. Then he said, "Look, high days now why?" And he stayed with him for 4 months. All right, and Laban said to Jacob, "Because you are my relative, she therefore serve me nothing. Tell me what should your wages be?" Now Laban had two daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were delicate, but Rachel was beautiful of form. So he wanted Rachel. Like, man, he wants Rachel. Now Jacob loved Rachel. So he said, "I will serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter." And Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than I should give her to another man. Stay with me." All right. So he's stay with me. So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed only a few days to him because of the love he had for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife." So he's like, 7 years, give me my wife. Yeah, standard years. Yeah, exactly. So he's like, "Hey, give me my wife." Now it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to Jacob, and he went into her. So he's like, he after 7 years, he's like, here you go, here's Rachel, but really it was Leah as a maid. So it came to pass in the morning that behold, it was Leah, and he said to Laban, what have you done to me? Was it not for Rachel that I served you? Why have you deceived me?" Also remember, Jacob was a deceiver as well. Remember, he deceived his brother. All right, he got his first birthright, and then he got the blessing from his dad, Isaac. All right, remember he wore like a hairy thing because his brother was hairy. Yeah, exactly. 21 years of employment. He got 21 years of employment, and he knew that he was gonna he needed Jacob because Jacob was very blessed. I remember Isaac blessed Jacob. All right, Isaac he gave Jacob the blessing instead of his brother Esau. All right, and he noticed that the father-in-law noticed that, like, man, this kid is blessed. Like, you know what, I'm gonna keep him around, and that's what he does. He keeps him around, and he ends up growing in wealth. All right, it says, I forgot. I think it said he grew like 100-fold. Let me see here. The children of Jacob, then Lord. All right. Therefore, his name was called Levi, and she conceived again. So Leah has a bunch of babies. Now, when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, so Rachel wasn't bearing no kids. Rachel envied her sister and said to Jacob, "Give me children, or else I die." And Jacob's anger was aroused against Rachel, and he said, "I am in the place of God, who is withheld from the fruit of the womb." So she said, "Here is my maid." So he just like, "Here, uh, give a baby to my maid, Bilhah." All right. Bore Jacob a son. Then Rachel said, "God has judged my case, and he has also heard my voice and given me son. Therefore, call his name Dan." All right, that's going to be another tribe of Israel. Then Rachel said, "With a great wrestle." When Leah, let me see here. All right, let me see, Rachel. So Rachel's not having babies. All right, she has trouble having babies here. But she said to her, "It's a small matter, for you have taken away my husband." Rachel prays, and Rachel said, "Therefore he will lie with you tonight for your son's mandrakes." When Jacob came out of the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet and said, "You must come in to me." And I surely hired with my son mandrakes, and he lay with her that night. Let me see here. So we're just waiting for Rachel to have a baby here. All right. Let me see here. All right. Verse 22, chapter 30, verse 22. Then God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. All right. All those prayers. And she conceived and bore a son and said, "God has taken away my reproach." So she called his name Joseph and said, "The Lord shall add to me another son." All right. Rachel has Joseph. And then we go into Jacob and his father-in-law, Laban. And it came to pass when Rachel had born Joseph that Jacob said to Laban, Send me away that I may go on my own place and to my country. So he's like, hey, like, let me go now. Like, he tells his father-in-law, like, all right, it's time for me to go. Give me my wives and my children and whom I served you, and let me go, for you know my service which I have done for you. So like, hey, 14 years. Hey, let me go now. So Jacob said to him, you know how I served you, and how your livestock has been with me. For what you have had before I came was little, and is increased a great amount. The Lord has blessed you since my coming, and now you shall, when shall I provide for my own house? So he's like, hey, I want to provide my own house now, because I done helped you out enough. 14 years is enough. All right. Uh, Peter, here it says, let me pass through all your flock today, removing. Let me see. So he said, what shall I give you? And Jacob said, you shall not give me anything. If you will do the things for me, I will again feed and keep your flocks. So, hey, I'll help you keep up with your flocks. All right. Let me pass through all the flock today, removing from there speckled, spotted sheep, and all brown ones among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and these shall be my wages. All right, so I guess he's going to separate them. So my righteousness will answer for me in time to come when the subject of my wages come before you. All right. Laban said, oh, that it? We're according to your word. Let me see. So here we go. So he removed the goats that were speckled, spotted. All right. Let's see. Now Jacob took for himself rods. All right, and the rods. So the flocks can see before the rods, and the flocks. And it came to pass whenever the stronger lifestyle Jacob. All right, here we go. Thus the man became exceedingly prosperous. And had large flocks, female and male servants, and camels and donkeys. Now Jacob heard the word of Laban's son, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what was our father's, he has acquired all the wealth. And Jacob saw the countenance of Laban, and indeed it was not favorable towards him as before. Then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers. All right, so he's pretty much taking. Now Jacob heard the word of the Laban's son, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what our fathers he has acquired all the wealth. So Jacob is taking from his father-in-law here. So now they're in bad terms. So he leaves. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field of the flock, and said to them, I see your father's countenance, that is not favorable towards me, and therefore, but the God of my father has been with me. Yet your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but God did not allow him to hurt me. Here we go. So he changed his wages 10 times. All right. So then, yeah. So, yeah, he serves 14 years. Stopgap between her servant and then Rachel. Yeah. So I believe the purpose is from the book of Genesis, they're just building the descendants of Abraham. Like they're just making babies, more babies, more babies, more babies. All right, they're multiplying the descendants of Abraham. So it's just, hey, he bore a son with Leah, and like, hey, here's my maidservant, bore a son with the maidservant. All right, and then finally Rachel, and he's building the genealogy. All right, he's building just the descendants. Remember, he's gonna have so many descendants, the same amount as the stars, pretty much. All right, which you can't count. Therefore, hey, the Jews have a large number of descendants, and their father is Abraham. All right, that they had the covenant of circumcision. All right, I'm gonna exit out of this video, and I'm gonna start another one. All right, I'm gonna start, I guess, New Testament, and we'll go from there. All right, thank you very much. If you want to see me, just check me out as I start another video. Thank you very much.